So then you came to UAE, to Dubai.
Yes.
How often do you intersect with the National Security Agency, NSA? And I ask that as someone whose texts were read by them. So I know that they're very active in this world. What's your experience been?
Well, I think the NSA is not an agency that works with you directly, right? You're not coming here.
You're so diplomatic. I love it. The NSA is not an agency that works with you directly. No, that is true. That is true.
So my knowledge of my interactions with the NSA is very limited.
Yes.
I could read something in the newspapers about, my phone being penetrated with Pegasus or something like that. I have no idea whether it's true or not, but this is the only source of information I can have about me personally being of interest to any of the secret agencies.
But you've got to think, even though you haven't done an interview in 7 years-ish, it's widely known by people who are interested who you are and your role in this. I mean, you've got to think you're under just crazy amounts of surveillance, wouldn't you think?
That's probably true. It would sound funny, but I assume by default that the devices I use are compromised.
Yeah.
Because you will still use an iPhone or an Android phone, and after experiencing what I experienced in the US, I have very limited faith in platforms developed in the US from a security standpoint.
Yes, privacy standpoint.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because in a lot of countries, ours, America included, spying is described as, quote, security. You're looking at it from the other perspective.
Mm.
You're assuming that security is privacy and my right not to be spied upon, but big governments describe spying upon you as security.
Thank you for this correction.
So last question, since you've done this since you were in college and you've been at the center of it, where do you see it going? And by this, I mean the free exchange, the private exchange of information between sovereign individuals, human beings, non-slaves. When I was a child, that was possible. It's increasingly difficult. Are we moving toward a world where there just is no private communication? Or do you think that privacy will remain despite, say, AI or just massive increases in computing power?
Well, this depends on the extent of privacy. When you say privacy will remain, do you mean that we have absolute privacy now?
I don't think that we do. And I think the world is becoming less amenable. Governments becoming less tolerant of privacy. And that's clearly the trend because they have more technological power. But will they win? I guess, will there ever be a way to preserve privacy? Is there a place for it?
I believe in that. I am an optimist. I think some new secure hardware, communication devices will be created in a similar way that now we have hardware wallets to store your cryptocurrency.
Yes.
Maybe we'll have secure communication devices, to send messages or do voice calls. It's possible. I do believe that, the world develops in cycles, and if things seem to go in one direction today, doesn't mean that tomorrow they will go the same direction. I also feel that at some point people will get tired of what they experience today, and they would decide to move to some other direction. So I seen it after COVID, for example. So during COVID, you had a lot of restrictions. Also on social media platforms. On most social media platforms, you were not really allowed to express doubt in relation to lockdowns, or vaccines, or masks. And at some point, I could feel like the sentiment changed. People started to feel very, very tired and sometimes angry with the fact that they were not allowed to express their opinions. particularly after the end of the pandemic, a lot of people started to be even more skeptical about the restrictions in their freedoms that they experienced during the pandemic.
What was your position as a business owner during COVID? You must have come under pressure to censor opinions on lockdowns, vaccines, masking. How did you respond?
So our position is pretty straightforward. We're a neutral platform. We were helping governments to spread their message about the lockdowns and masks and vaccines. We had dozens of governments who we really helped disseminate their information. But we also didn't want to restrict the voices that were critical of all these measures. We thought it made sense for these opposing views to collide and hopefully, see some truth come out of those debates. And of course, we got criticized for that. But looking back, I think it was the right strategy.
So you allowed people to voice doubts about the so-called science throughout the experience?
Exactly. During the pandemic, I think we're one of the few, or maybe the only major social media platform that didn't take down accounts that were skeptical in relation to some of these measures.
So why are you not famous and treated as a hero in the United States? Shouldn't there be a parade in your honor? If you're the only social media platform not to take down what turned out to be true, or to some extent true, certainly more true than the CDC guidance. I mean, why weren't you Times Man of the Year? Why isn't your face on the nickel?
I'm not an expert in the US politics.
Can you give us an example of a request that you thought crossed into censorship and spying, violating people's privacy?
Well, there's I would say, a very funny story related to your home country. After the events of January the 6th, we received a letter from, I believe, congressmen of the Democratic side, and they requested that we would share all the data we had in relation to what they called this uprising. And we checked it with our lawyers, and they said, you better ignore it. But the letter seemed very serious, and the letter said, if you fail to comply with this request, you will be in violation with the US Constitution or something like that.
So they wanted data on people who voted for the other guy in the election.
Well, they wanted the data of people, who were demonstrating in Washington or wherever they were doing. You're probably right. I'm not an expert in US politics.
Yeah.
What was funny about it is 2 weeks after that letter, we got another letter, a new letter from the Republican side of the Congress. And there we read that if we give out any data according to the previous request, we would be in violation of the US Constitution. So we got 2 letters that said whatever we do would be violating the US Constitution in a way. That was my understanding of these letters.
From the same legislative body, both from the US Congress?
Yes.
So how do you respond to that?
Well, the same way we respond to most such requests, we decided to ignore them because it's such a complicated matter related to internal politics in the US. We don't want to take any...
I believe this strongly, if you ignore your problems, most of them do go away.
That's very true.
It is very... No one says it, but it's true.
we got too much attention from the FBI, the security agencies, wherever we came to the US. So to give you an example, last time I was in the US, I brought an engineer that is working for Telegram, and there was an attempt to secretly hire my engineer behind my back by cybersecurity officers or agents, wherever they are called.
The U.S. government should hire your engineer?
That's my understanding. That's what he told me.
To write code for them or to break into Telegram?
They were curious to learn which open source libraries are integrated to the Telegram's app, on the client side, and they were trying to persuade him to use certain open source tools that he would then integrate into the Telegram's code that, in my understanding, would serve as backdoors.
Would allow the U.S. government to spy on people who use Telegram?
The U.S. government, or maybe any other government, because a backdoor is a backdoor regardless of who is using it.
That's right.
And
that's a little surprising to hear. Maybe it's not surprising. It's offensive. You're confident that happened?
Yes. There is no reason for my engineer to make up the stories. Also because I personally experienced similar pressure in the US. Whenever I would go to the US, I would have two FBI agents greeting me at the airport, asking questions. One time I was having my breakfast at like 9 a.m. and the FBI showed up at my house that I was renting. And that was quite surprising. And I thought, we're getting too much attention here. It's probably not the best environment to run.
Why would had you committed a crime?
No. They were interested to learn more about Telegram. They knew I, left Russia. They knew what we were doing, but they wanted details. And my understanding is that they wanted to establish a relationship to, in a way, control Telegram better. I understand that they were doing their job. It's just that for us running a privacy-focused social media platform, that probably wasn't the best environment to be in. We want to be focused on what we do, not on government relations of that sort.
Government relations.
You have now Twitter or X.
Yeah.
That seemingly becoming more pro freedom of speech, and
I think it is.
It's a great development. And back to our earlier discussion about how all of this is developing in cycles. Things are starting to change, it seems.
So but in some ways, Elon buying Twitter sort of ends your monopoly, but you still greet it cheerfully. You're still in favor of it.
Definitely. We loved the fact that Elon bought Twitter. We thought it was a great development for a number of reasons. First reason is just innovation. You could see X trying a lot of things. Some of them will turn out to be mistakes. Some of them will work, but at least they're trying to innovate. That's something we didn't have outside of Telegram and a few other companies in this industry for the last 10 years. What you saw from the big players, they would rather copy the proven models, the features that apps like Telegram launched, and just scale them on a larger audience. And these features will be pale reflections of what we built. But this was the way those companies operate, still operate. What X is trying to do is in line with what we're building, innovation, trying different things, trying to give power to the creators, trying to get the ecosystem economy going. Those are all exciting things. And I think we need more companies like that.